Well, the diets throughout the blue zone areas vary a little bit, but I can tell you, first of all, these aren't fad diets. These people have been eating the same way for centuries or millennia, so they don't vary. In most of these blue zones, there's maybe 20 foods that are eaten all year long. I mean, that make up the vast majority of their diet. So for the blue zone solution, we did a meta-analysis of sorts. If you want to know what a 100-year-old ate to be 100, and I argue that um, you want to eat for outcome, not necessarily for promise. And
Hmm.
so these, we know they're people who are living to 100 at the highest rate. And in order to find out what they eat, you can't just ask them, what did you have for lunch? Or what did you have last week? Because they don't remember. If I ask you, Chris, what did you have for lunch a week ago Tuesday, what would you tell me?
Well, I actually know the answer because I eat the same thing
What?
every
You,
day for breakfast and lunch. But if you ask me what I have for dinner, I
well,
wouldn't
most people can't.
know.
But anyway, so the way we kind of pieced together the centenarian diet in all five blue zones, uh, we went and found dietary surveys done in the 20s and the 40s and the 50s and 70s, and and first of all, you see that the eating trends were remarkably consistent throughout the century, and secondly, you see that 90 to 100% of their dietary intake comes from plants. It's a very high carbohydrate diet.
Yeah.
Now, when you say that, you have to qualify it in that because both lollipops and lentils are carbohydrates, but so as you might imagine, they're complex carbohydrates.
Yeah.
About 65% of their dietary intake comes from things like whole grains, and, you hear wheat belly and all. In three of the blue zones, they're eating bread all the time, but it's
Yeah.
usually 100% whole grain.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise. Or sourdough, which metabolically is very different than just a plain old white bread. A real sourdough leavened with lactobacillus. Um, Sweet potatoes, cornerstone of the Okinawan longevity diet, and greens, which in one of our blue zones, Ikaria was most highly correlated with low mortality. So they have 70 or so kinds of greens, most of which look like weeds that grow on the side of the highway, but they bake them into these delicious pies. But the cornerstone of every longevity diet in the world, and what shocked me was um, people are eating about a cup of beans a day, all kinds of beans, black beans, soybeans. No matter where you go and people are living a long time, they're adding about a cup of beans to their daily diet. And I argue that if you feel the need to go out and buy a longevity supplement, go buy a 2 pound bag of black beans. And it's about the best you can do. It's got the best research, and add that to your diet, and it should add a few years of life expectancy.
I love it. No, I love beans. We eat beans and lentils, rice, quinoa, tons of fruits and vegetables every day in our house. Like we love those foods. And so here's a really specific question that I'm hoping you might know the answer to, but in the really I'd say uber nerdy health community, there's debate on whether or not you need to sprout your beans. What have you seen in the blue zones? Are they all eating sprouted beans, or are they just eating regular cooked beans?
Well, I think you need four things if you want to use diet to contribute to your health. Number one, um, you have to be convinced that it's good for you. So whether it's sprouted or unsprouted, if you're convinced that sprouted is better for you, you should go for sprouted. Number two, you have to have the skills to know how to make it. And not when I say skills, actually the time as well, because people are busy. Um, Number three, you have to know you like it. So sprouted beans may or may not be a little healthier for you, But if you don't like sprouted beans, I guarantee you after a year you won't be eating it. You might sort of buck up and eat them for a while, but if it's drudgery to eat sprouted beans every day, you're not going to do it for a long time, so it's not going to matter. And then fourth, you need a community around yourself that reinforces those eating. So if sprouted beans are the healthiest thing in the world and all your friends eat barbecue, guess what you're not going to be eating when you go over to their house. So yeah, so I would say find a bean you love to eat, learn how to make a few dishes that taste delicious, and stick with that.
That's great. That's great advice. We had black bean tacos last night.
You get a Blue Zone star for that.
Yes. Love some black beans and lentils especially.